You know what sound that is, folks? You betcha. This is a Noon Whistle special edition. I'm Chris Trottier.
And I'm John Anzalone. And we have Ken Reynolds with us. Ken, Elkhorn alumni, Elkhorn wrestling coach, business owner of Overwear Apparel, and all things Elkhorn. And we're going to talk about Payton Jacobson, who's someone that Ken coached.
Yes, he was a thrill to have coached.
So Ken, let's just get right into it here. There's some things coming up. There's been a lot of fundraisers for Payton. Payton Jacobson's going to the Olympics in Paris this summer, correct?
It's a pretty cool thing to say. We have an Elkhorn kid that is Olympian, Payton Jacobson. That hasn't been said ever. So it's a wonderful experience. I think he's done a lot for this town just by that. But how cool is that?
Yeah. Well, bring us back to your wrestling coaching days. You coached for over 20 years, almost 25, 26?
25 years, yeah. I coached for 25 years. I ran our youth club for 10 years prior to that. So I've been involved in coaching wrestling in Elkhorn for over 35 years. I competed, of course, for another 6-7 years there. So yeah, it's ingrained in me. But coaching was a blast. It changed my life.
So you had a lot of successful teams. Congrats to you. You had a lot of successful individual wrestlers, a lot of state champs, a lot of state qualifiers. In amongst all those people was Payton Jacobson, correct?
Yes, Payton wrestled pretty much his 8th grade year with me. His 8th grade year, he practiced with the high school exclusively. He traveled with us. He was on our bench. He went to every tournament. He was on every bus ride. And to be quite honest, he was a leader in 8th grade. He worked so hard in our practice room that he gained so much respect from the high school guys when he was in 8th grade. So you just knew what was going to happen with that kid.
So freshman year, the season starts. Payton's a freshman. And I remember a story you telling me about you kind of switched him up a little bit, and he gave you the look like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, he, when you have wrestlers of that caliber, and I was blessed, I really was to have so many top-notch guys. But when, you have a guy like that, you challenge him, right? He needs to be challenged. But our first meet happened to be that. It was a rivalry match and with Delavan, and their best kid was the weight class above Payton. And Payton was light. He was only 103 pounds as a freshman. So naturally, we need to win the duel, and you're going to move, your stud guys up or down or do whatever you got to do to win. And I just told him, you got to wrestle up and wrestle this kid. And he said, I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it. And I said, well, you're going to do it. And a little bit of grumbling back and forth, but he went out and won the match and won the duel for us. Without a doubt, but he won the match in the last few seconds. It was a great match, but that just tells you what kind of kid you have, right?
Did he have any thoughts from saying, I don't think I want to winning and coming back? Did he say anything then?
He didn't, but he definitely, appreciated the win. I mean, he came off and high-fived me right away. I mean, we had a tremendous amount of respect for each other. I don't, want respect one way and not the other. I respect him as an athlete, all my guys, but he came off and high-fived me, and I said, great job. I knew you could do it. But we have a great relationship.
Yeah. So Ken, these really, people don't realize this, but these really elite specific athletes, they take a really unique path. Doesn't matter. I know Mr. Tadlock's talked about, I think his niece or maybe his sister was a swimmer, and that, they're really dedicating their life to it. Dancers, baseball, John, right? You think about some of the kids from Waukesha in Wisconsin. So he goes through high school, and then he ends up at where? Northern Michigan or Michigan Tech? Which one?
Northern Michigan University. But I got to tell you, we ran I should say, Jake and Dan Stilling ran a clinic for him. Payton, when he came back last week, and as a coach, I went to help, and I was there, of course, but I sat on the side and I was watching, and it was so rewarding because here I'm watching Dan and Jake Stilling, who were Division I athletes at the University of Wisconsin, Joey Showalter, who happened to be home, another Division I wrestler that I coached, and Payton Jacobson, who's a world level athlete, all out on the mat, giving back and coaching all the youth in our community. And I tell you, that was such a rewarding moment for me to watch those guys out there. But the path they chose was a tough path. It really was.
So at some point, though, Payton changed his path a little bit.
Yeah.
From freestyle to Greco-Roman,
that's where I was going.
correct?
Well, his passion was Greco. Like when he was young, it was Greco, and he wrestled, folk style, which is traditional high school style wrestling and all that. Okay. He did that because that's what was their kind of thing. But after his sophomore year, he left for Northern Michigan to dedicate himself to Greco because that was his true passion. We all knew it. I think, follow your path, kid. I've had that question 100 times, man, you must have been upset, when Payton left. And I think that's really couldn't be further from the truth. Kid's following his passion and his dream. No, he's wrestling,
well,
he's a dedicated athlete. So
that's kind of that unique path where I was going, Kenny.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm glad you kind of filled in those gaps a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, like, speaking of another great athlete, Elkhorn grad, Benji Peak, right? So yeah. Benji Peak and Payton are both. Why give the viewers who don't know the why Northern Michigan? What's the
Northern Michigan is the Greco training facility or the Olympic training site for Greco wrestling. So it's very specific. Greco wrestling is very unique. It's I feel, and we feel, of course, just because I've been around Benji and Payton so much and watched it, that Greco wrestling is the oldest form of wrestling known to man. Like 3,000 years ago, that's how they used to decide disputes in villages. Push the guy out of the ring. The first guy gets pushed out of the ring wins, right? They would have disputes and they would settle it fairly.
That's how Chris and I decide who's going to talk first on the Noon Whistle each week.
Well, we can get a mat out next week. I'd love to get that going. And
Ken, when we wrestled in PE class, I would just lay on my back and get it over with. I was the cager. I played hoops. So listen, so that was it. John, you win. You could talk first all the time.
Well, back in the day when I was in high school, the wrestling team would come over and we would play the basketball team. And then the basketball team would come over and they would have to wrestle us.
Yeah.
But that quickly ended.
I would say that's true.
Yeah.
Chris, I want to bounce back to something you said, and we should probably inject here Benji Peak, because Benji Peak was sniffing right at the Olympics and has been for several years. And another top level, high level, elite wrestler that unfortunately just didn't make it at the end, right? I mean,
well, it was unbelievable. I got so many phone calls, people I didn't even know, people across the country that I didn't even know that, how did Elkhorn get two guys in the semifinals at the Olympic trials? That just doesn't happen. But those are the two athletes that we're talking about. They were just driven. But Benji, he's still a world team member. I mean, he's still an unbelievable wrestler and a driven wrestler, but he was wrestling in the Olympic trials with a broken foot. Yeah. So not only did he make the semifinals in that tournament, he was wrestling with a broken foot. I don't even know how he won a match, like how he even did what he did. But
So Kenny, Payton ends up at Northern Michigan. He's training. He's getting ready. Now let's talk about now where it's like decision making. We're gonna prepare for the Olympics. Tell us about that story, because there's great videos of the family and Cam and the whole family on there celebrating in tears. Talk about what happened at here we go. Where was he seated to start, and then he ended up winning.
Well, I mean, his goal all along has been not just an Olympian. This isn't the end of his goal, right? His goal is to be Olympic champion. I think it's very realistic with him. I think he is so mentally tough and strong. His mental toughness is unbelievable. But he was seeded 7th going into the Olympic trials. He was in the same weight class as Benji. And the reality is that weight class was just very stacked. That was a very tough weight class. So when he looked up, like we do in high school matches, right? He's like, well, if I go up a weight class, I've just got a better chance to make it. So he really, didn't have a true sense of that weight class, and that's why he was seated 7th going into it. But I talked to Benji, about that. I said, geez, Payton going up, he's seated 7th, what do you think? He's like, oh, he's going to win it. Yeah, he's going to win it, coach. He's going to win it. And I said, well, that's great. I feel good about it, but Benji knew what kind of kid he had there too, so, he knows. But yeah, Payton was seated 7th in the tournament and walked, and got through it. It wasn't easy by any means, but boy, he wrestled well. He just wrestled well. His drive was unbelievable.
So all this stuff we're talking about, Payton making it, Payton going to the Olympics, brings us to, there's been a whole lot of wonderful outpouring of support for Payton, the Jacobson family, the whole thing. And we know Payton did the little parade downtown. He did the wrestling camp. There's Olympic American flags that support Payton that are out in our community at different stores. Got one behind you. And then there's a dinner coming up, and you are the driving force behind this fundraising dinner coming up, correct?
Yeah, I felt I really wanted to do something to help not only Payton, but his family. Like, I don't know if people realize what kind of sacrifices their family has made to get Payton to this point as well. Like, not only Payton has made a ton of sacrifices, a kid that, typically 21 years old, and what is he doing on a Friday night? He's not downtown, eating pizza or anything like that. This is a kid that's training and, has a whole different regimen and a mindset. But his family, has been behind him for these last 3 or 4 years. And, he's traveling all over the world to compete. And a lot of those expenses along the way is quite frankly come from the family and support. So when this happened, of course, the Olympics, I want, and the community wants to make sure that they can all go and enjoy it. So this is for the family and for Payton. And, his training partner that he gets to take is Benji Peak, another Elkhorn alumni wrestler. So,
awesome.
How cool is that Payton chooses another Elkhorn alum. And so I really felt the love from the community, and this community is amazing. Everything I've been through the last few years here, but, they want to do something. Our community wants to do something. So I felt that, and no offense, but a $10, spaghetti dinner just wasn't going to answer the call. And this is a special moment, a special event. So that's why we're having, a prime rib dinner at Evergreen. It's going to be a nice formal event. But we want to do something of significance and make it real memorable for everybody too. This is pretty unique. This doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah. So Kenny, so people can, so let's talk a little bit about this. So checks are going to go to the Booster Club, All Sports Booster Club.
Yes.
$52 per ticket.
Yes.
You can pay, limited to first 100.
We can go over 100.
Okay.
I was just trying to do that to kind of spur everybody on a little bit.
I get it. Yeah. You got an auction item, 50-50 raffle.
Yep.
And then you got on the right, you got the sponsor benefits, but also the donation. And those also go to the All Sports Booster Club for the Path to Paris for Payton, correct?
Yes. And we'll take anything, right? It's like, to the baskets all the way up and, different levels. And everybody's been that I've talked to, I haven't gotten out as much as I've wanted. This is basically 3 weeks, to get this together. So it has to come together quick. But everyone's just been great that I've spoken to so far about it and done a wonderful job. But anything that they can do to help would be great.
So June 1 at Evergreen, correct?
Yes, June 1 at Evergreen. We'll have auction items are going to include we have a couple singlets that he autographed that we're going to auction off, some shoes that he autographed. I've got other items that some companies have donated. We'll have raffle baskets, all those kind of things going on. We have speakers that we have, the coaches, like all levels of his coaches are going to speak. The coaches, the guys that had coached him when he was 6 years old and guys that are coaching him now at the Olympic level. So just the speakers alone, I think is going to be an awesome experience for everyone to hear from that level of guys. Benji is also going to be there, and he's going to speak. Payton is going to Zoom in. He will be in Croatia during the dinner and is going to wake up at 3 a.m. and we're going to Zoom with Payton then. So we're looking for a really good celebration there.
In addition, I love the fact, Ken, show your T-shirts. They can get those to just go online over. Oh, look at John.
Ready?
Look at this.
Yes.
Look at that.
Yeah. Got mine on too.
Yep. Go to Overwear Apparel, and you can order them online. And for all of this, Ken, talk a little bit where the proceeds are going. Like, what are we supporting here?
The proceeds,
the trip.
Everything that we're doing here, the T-shirts, of course, have gone over real well. All the monies, all the profits from the dinner are going to go to the Jacobson family to support their travel.
Got it.
And also the family, right? Because Bryce and Cammie and all that, but they're also going to help with the coaches because quite honestly, it's an expensive trip. So the Jacobson family, as good as they are, right? They're going to help the coaches bring, their wives, and things like that. So their family can go. And I just think it's outstanding. They're just such a good family. And how can you not want to help?
So just to clarify this, so people understand that an Olympian's family or his coaches or his training partner, they aren't funded by the Olympics to get there, stay there, eat there, help out there. They have to pay for that on their own or attempt to.
I'm not sure 100% on that, but I know the family doesn't, get anything from USA on that, but I'm pretty sure Payton's pretty well funded. The coach is probably funded, but a lot of that support staff probably is not funded, right? So that's what we want, is we want Payton to feel as comfortable as possible when he's over there, having his entire coaching staff there, Benji Peak there, those kind of things. Because, Benji is like a big brother to him in this wrestling thing. He's taught him an immense amount. And Payton will be the first one to tell you that Benji, one of his biggest inspirations has been Benji. So we want that all to just be a smooth transition for him to make him compete the best that he can for all of us, right?
Well, let's fill that room up. Let's fill up the 100+ tables.
Buy some shirts. I got to go get mine. I got to get mine.
We're about 50 tickets right now. And quite honestly, we need to be at that 100 level or higher. We really do. And we have about 56 tickets sold to this point. So get on there, get a ticket, come and enjoy a night. We'll be talking with Olympians all the way down to youth club guys, and Benji Peak will be there, and all of us coaches and everyone. So it'll be a really fun night. I think that you would enjoy the heck out of it.
Yeah. And sponsor, when you do a sponsorship, the different levels I see include tickets as well to the dinner. So that's included in the sponsorship.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Yes, sir. That's what we encourage, right? Is if you have a couple wrestlers in your company, right? In your company, that company can buy a $500 or $1,000 sponsorship, and then you go give the tickets to the wrestling guys, in your company that might enjoy that, So that's been kind of my pitch, and it's been going over pretty well.
Good.
Yeah. All right. So we're getting about that time. Kenny, thanks for all you're doing on this. We got good information. We'll get this out on Facebook. Sign up, support the cause. I know we talked in our pre-show. We want to do some thank yous, but before we get to that, I'm just going to say this, Coach Reynolds. You know who would really appreciate this whole experience? Coach Wilson.
I can't tell you how emotional I get with Dean talking about him. I know he'd be so proud.
He would. He would.
Be so proud.
Yep.
I miss him. I miss him so much.
And he'd get up there and use the wrong mic and just say, Dean Wilson here.
Yeah, and I'd probably have to get the long stick and pull him off the stage. He would talk way too long.
Yeah.
But everybody would love to hear from him. There's no doubt about it.
Well, but Kenny, before we shut off and head back to work, why don't you just do some quick shout outs? We'll leave this up on the screen so people can see it. There's a lot of people involved in here. John and I thank you for really not only coaching for your years, your commitment to the community, but also obviously when these moments come up, you ring the bell. So thank you to you, but let's do some shout outs and thank yous before we head off.
Well, my big shout out is to the Booster Club again. I cannot tell you what I think the world of our Booster Club. I've been a wrestling coach here for a lot of years, and every time I'm a Hall of Fame chairman, and all of the things that I've gone to the Booster Club and asked for, I have never been told no. And when I went to them with this, and I said, we need, a sponsor, a presenting sponsor, and ask them for what I was asking for. It was a unanimous decision, and go get them, Reynolds. Go do it. Go do your thing. And so the Booster Club is the presenting sponsor of this event. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to have this event 100%. So I really want to thank the Booster Club and all that they do for our community. I think they're a great organization.
Awesome. John, anything else on that note?
If someone can't make it, but they want to help on the front end, is there any availability, or are you looking for any people to help with certain things that they could participate prior to coming?
Absolutely. We would love people to gather baskets and raffle items, those kind of things. They can be just dropped off at my office. They can flip me an email or call me. There's tons of things that we need help with. So if anybody's interested, please get a hold of me. I'd love it.
All right. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Ken. Thank you. Everybody, support a great cause. This is a great time to come out, have a great evening, support a great cause, a first in our community. And Ken, thanks for coming on the Noon Whistle and all you do for your community. And John, on that note, let's head back to work here, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. See you guys.
Thanks.